I have ADHD and I have taken medicine for it since I was a kid. Having ADHD and taking medicine for it is nothing to be ashamed of, nothing that I'm afraid to let people know. These are the words of Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast in history. She is a 4-time Olympic gold medalist, a world champion, and one of the most dominant athletes of all time. But behind her breathtaking performances, behind the precision, the power, the gravity defying routines, there was something most people didn't see. She was living with ADHD. For years, she struggled with focus, impulse control, and managing distractions, challenges that made training even harder. But instead of letting ADHD define her, she found ways to work with it, not against it. She learned to channel her hyperfocus into perfecting her routines. She developed strict routines and mental strategies to keep her focus locked in. And she wasn't afraid to get the right treatment because ADHD isn't a weakness. For Simone, understanding her ADHD wasn't just about overcoming a challenge, it was about unlocking her full potential. What is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It's a neurodevelopmental condition that affects focus, impulse control, and behavior. But ADHD isn't just about being easily distracted or hyper. It's about how the brain regulates attention differently. People with ADHD don't struggle with attention itself. They struggle with controlling their attention. One moment, their brain locks onto a task with laser focus. This is called hyperfocus. The next, their thoughts are bouncing in 100 different directions. And that's just one part of ADHD. There's also impulsivity, acting or speaking before thinking, struggling with self control, and difficulty waiting for their turn. And then there's hyperactivity, which isn't always physical. For some, it's a restless mind that never slows down. ADHD isn't a choice, it's a difference in brain wiring, one that affects millions of people. How common is ADHD? ADHD is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders in the world. It affects around 5 to 7% of children globally. But ADHD doesn't just disappear with age. Over 60% of kids with ADHD continue to have symptoms as adults. In fact, about 2.5% of adults are diagnosed with ADHD, but many more go undiagnosed, especially women, because ADHD doesn't always look like bouncing off the walls. For some, it's a constant struggle with focus, motivation, and emotional control. What causes ADHD? ADHD isn't caused by too much screen time. It's not about bad parenting or eating too much sugar. It's a brain based condition shaped by genetics, neurobiology, and environmental factors. 1. Genetic factors. Research shows that ADHD runs in families. If a parent has ADHD, their child has a 50% chance of developing it. Scientists have even pinpointed specific genes linked to dopamine regulation, the brain chemical responsible for focus, motivation, and impulse control. Brain structure and function. Brain scans reveal that people with ADHD have differences in key brain areas, including the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision making, and impulse control, the basal ganglia, which regulates movement and attention, the cerebellum, which helps with coordination and timing. In people with ADHD, these areas are often smaller or function differently, making it harder to regulate attention, emotions, and impulses. T3. Chemical imbalances. ADHD is linked to low levels of dopamine and norepinephrine. Dopamine helps with motivation and focus, while norepinephrine plays a role in alertness and memory. When these chemicals are out of balance, it becomes harder to stay engaged, control impulses, and manage distractions. 4. Environmental factors. Certain environmental influences may also contribute to ADHD, including premature birth or low birth weight, exposure to toxins like lead, maternal stress during pregnancy. None of these factors cause ADHD on their own, but they can make symptoms more severe in people who are already genetically predisposed. Symptoms of ADHD. ADHD symptoms fall into two main categories. 1. Inattentive symptoms. 2. Hyperactive impulsive symptoms. Inattentive symptoms. Struggling to pay attention to details, making careless mistakes, losing focus easily, especially during boring or repetitive tasks, forgetting daily responsibilities like appointments or due dates, difficulty staying organized, losing things, missing deadlines, or struggling with time management. Hyperactive, impulsive symptoms, feeling restless, always needing to move, fidget, or tap. Interrupting conversations, blurting out answers before questions are finished. Difficulty waiting their turn, whether in a conversation, a game, or a long line. Acting impulsively, making quick decisions without thinking about the consequences. ADHD isn't just about attention, it also affects emotions, motivation, and behavior. People with ADHD often struggle with emotional ups and downs, reacting strongly to small frustrations, rejection sensitivity, feeling deeply hurt by criticism or failure, time blindness, struggling to accurately estimate how long things will take. How is ADHD diagnosed? ADHD isn't diagnosed with a simple test. Instead, doctors look for consistent patterns of symptoms that appear before age 12, happen in multiple settings, home, school, work, interfere with daily life. It's not about occasional distractions or restlessness. It's about persistent challenges that impact everyday functioning. How is ADHD treated? ADHD is not curable, but it is highly manageable with the right support. The best treatments include 1. Medication. Stimulants like Adderall, Ritalin, and Vyvanse help regulate dopamine and norepinephrine, improving focus and impulse control. 2. Therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps with organization, emotional regulation, and self control. Parent training helps families support children with ADHD. 3. Lifestyle changes. Exercise boosts dopamine and improves focus. Consistent sleep routines reduce hyperactivity and impulsivity. Mindfulness and meditation improve self awareness and emotional regulation. With the right strategies, ADHD can become a strength, not a limitation. Final thoughts. ADHD is not a weakness. ADHD doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're wired differently, and different isn't bad. With the right tools and support, people with ADHD can thrive, just like Simone Biles. Because ADHD doesn't stop you from achieving greatness. It just means you have to find your own way to succeed.